So let's see if we can go live now. 3, 2, 1. Hey, we are alive. Welcome back to our session. Okay, so I got a problem with Restream, so I need to restart it a few times. And now looks like we are back here. Okay, so I'm so sorry for this interruption. I hope now it will be stable and we can continue. So the idea of today is that we are going to do these histograms. So histogram is this small representation that you can see these bars, and this is like a composition of values. So you know that it's green because it's open here and it's growing, so it finishes here. So open is less than closer, and then you can use it to understand market data. So you can see here like high and low values. So when the high and low are bigger than open and close, you can see like this small thick, and that's how people analyze it on financial data, and this is the example that we are going to cover. So as I was showing here, we have this table that we create here that is named ticks, and this table has like a time, has a symbol, has a price, and also has a volume here. And this is the basic fields that we have for this table, and then we just say create hypertable to make it a hypertable, and later we can introduce this materialized view where we can check the data and better understand this. So the idea here is that we can just make it work, and we can check how this works, and then later we can introduce it into Rails migrations and everything. So let's run this file as it's a very small example. I can say we use my playground here and just run cx, and we are going to see here the two queries in action. So as you see the first query, we are just opening the first 50 seconds, and we also get like some high, low, close and everything. And then later we just introduce a few more minutes, like 5 minutes, and you can see like the 6th minute is open here. So it just contains the open value here. So when you have a single tick, it will reset everything to the first value. And yeah, so this is also like a random data, so sometimes we get like a volume being 0 there. So but that's not the problem. So let's jump into the playground now, and let's take a look on this M1 in Rio. So it looks like a view. Like if I do like \d, you see that it's a view. And this view is automatically aggregating data. So when I insert more data, it will automatically pops the values here, aggregating all the results as we want. So we are introducing here like a minute time bucket, and yeah, that's one example that we can follow. So let's take a look now on how we can make it using active records. So the first challenge we have here is just try to connect into our database using Ruby and see how we get it. So we have the Timescale gem here. Let me check. I have it here, and what we have in this let's say actual example is that we build this console to allow you to have a small playground. So when you use bin console, you can just use like a connection string from somewhere, and this connection string will be reused for getting everything from this database. And then like here I made some magic to generate model classes inside Timescale, so we can have access to, let's say, similar models as we would have like in a Ruby on Rails ecosystem, but inside the playground, so you can check how it works. So let's take a look on how we can use it. And I will use like my console to also connect it to my local playground here. And now I can have access to tick here. So if I try here tick.first, I get the first one, and I get like all the data. I can even prove that the volume is zeroed in the level of the tick, because this is a fail in my system, but it doesn't matter too much. What we are going to do here is try to reproduce this CX thing. So when we call it here, what we are going to use first is this thing. So we will need to convert it to something like tick.select, and then we can start here with this part, and we don't need the from part, so I can just say here select, for example. So, and then I can say group. So I'm going to group by 1 and 2. That is let's say my first element here and my second tuple, and the rest of the elements are like aggregation functions. So I'm getting the first, I'm getting the maximum value, the minimum value based on some group by 1 minute. So this is what we do here, and you can see here the volume. We cannot see the open, high, low, close values, because the tick is not the right class. Like tick is a class that does not contain these attributes, and so we cannot see it very well. And if we come here, for example, if I come here and just for example rename it to time, we are going to have the time here. So it's almost like what we want, and also we can try to generate these attributes internally. So if I have here, for example, %i open, high, low, close, this is the columns that we have. This will just generate a list of symbols, so I can just iterate over them and just say here e, and then I can say here like attribute e. So but this should be inside the tick. So tick dot class eval do class eval. So this will evaluate this as something else, so it will recognize the attributes. So if I try this again, now you can see here like you have like open, high, low, and everything in the tick. It's like the open, high, low, close, but yeah, we just hacked it to make it work in a few minutes. But yeah, that's basically the idea. We can also think about like map attributes. So this is also something that probably we are going to use to just use the hash representation. Good. So we create this small idea where we can just reuse the select part. And the cool part here that I love is that we can say here to SQL, and I can just say puts here. Yeah, so what it will make, it will just print the SQL that we are generating behind the scenes. So as you can see here, we are using like Ruby objects, and here we have like SQL statements. So we can consider that like this is like a relation. So if I get here, for example, class, you see that this is an active record relation, and then like we can just think that our creates aggregates can receive a relation that can be composed, and then it can just call to SQL or understand that it's a string or not. So let's get hands dirty because that's funny. So let's move to our project scope here. So we have spec timescale / migration helpers, and this is where we are already covering some create table. So for example, here we are getting like connection create table, and we are here describing the create table. And the next step here is like describe the create continuous aggregates. So describe continuous aggregates. Okay, so I'll just show you that all the specs are running, so you can just see that you're not failing here and it's working. I also put all these output messages from active record to keep it clear what we are doing every step. And we have everything working, and now we can concentrate here on just do some magic thing. So let's copy this initial boilerplate, and then we can just move to our example of ticks here. So let's build another example. So let's call, instead of migration helpers, we are going to call it ticks. Tests, not helpers. Okay, and how can we create this tick table? So I have options here to use timestamp. Here we have symbol. We also have share volume, and we also have a decimal. Price. So this is what we have, and then we are going to drop the database, and we recreate the ticks. And this is not the subject. This can also be part of the before, as we need to create table make it, and then we can just read that just slide this, indenting better, and now that we have the hypertable, we can also say con. Let's create the subject, make it clear. So subject here will be connection, create continuous aggregates, and then we need to pass some options here. So let's jump into our example here is snippets, CAGs, and let's just see what we have. We have symbol, price, volume, and in the continuous aggregates we have sorry, we are talking about this line, not the other one. So this is the structure. So let's just think about it here. So here we can say with no data or with data. So that's the basics. So we will have something here like 𝗔𝗯ance 1 minute, and then we are going to pass some query here, and then we are going to pass some extra params, and these extra params will be like no data or with data. With data. So, and this is what we are going to call. So with data true. So now we need to define like a query here. So let query, what will be our query? So in our case, we are defining here some let's say example of ticks, but we don't have the class here to reference. So if we don't have the class to reference here, we will need to make it, or we need to create it from scratch. So this is quite simple. So let's get here a model, for example. So what will be the model? It will be like tick equal class dot new active record base do. So when we implement the do, we are just implementing the basics of this class. And let's steal something here, bin/console, because we are using these things that we need there. So this is the table name. So in our case, the table name here is ticks, and the primary key here is in this case, we are going to return the symbol. It doesn't matter because it's just like what it's returning, and it doesn't matter for us. So let's just call it like this. So, and then now we have the model. Now we can say the query. So we can say model. So where, it's not where. I'm so sorry. Let me just see where it is. Oh, it's on this. So what we want to do there is something like this. Okay, so you can see here that I have this query do. So let's just use this. And this is the query. So this is the active record relation. It's not going to execute this query anyway. And this is the query that we are going to use to create the continuous aggregate. So if we want to say to SQL here, we could say, but I'd like to make this conversion inside, so we can call it. And then we can just say here some expect specify do, let's put some name here, create CX. So we can say expect do create CX to change. So we can call now tick dot continuous aggregates. Let me just confirm that I have it hypertables methods, hypertable helpers. On the hypertable helpers, we have compression settings. Oh, we don't have it. Let's create it. Yeah, we have a table, but we don't have this. So we need to just create this small method here, scope. And this will just get the model aggregates. Okay, so with this line, it means that tick dot hypertable dot continuous. Oh no, I can call it directly. Continuous aggregates count from 0 to 1. So we are checking if we are introducing a new continuous aggregates, and then we can also check the remaining values here, like tick continuous aggregates dot last and then let's debug it. It will be cool if we make it pass, and then we can also debug it. So let's try to run our spec again. Spec more timescale hypertable migration helpers. Okay, so identifier is not working because we have this hard coded, and we are also adding continuous aggregates in somehow. So let's see here where we have this. Immigration helpers. Okay, so I say identifier here, and on the hypertable options in somewhere I'm using identifier hard-coded. So let's try to see here. When I say create hypertable, it's also saying alter table ticks, so it's on the alter table. Compress segment by. So compress segment by is new here, is now. So what we can do? So set up hypertable options here is wrong. Oh, sorry. I just copied the information from the previous, so it was like a problem with like trying to copy code. Okay, so now we don't have the tick here. All right, we cannot use tick as a class, but we can just call model, and here we can also say model. Change requires an object. Oh yes, sorry. This is like I could call here like a comma count, but in this case let's use a proc, so we revalidate it. So yes, this is like we'll run it once and then we'll run it again. After running this, it will run the block once, check it before and after, and check if it changed from 0 to 1. So let's see. Now we are good. We don't have the method, so we can fail and continue. So let's go. And the method will be here, aside with create hypertable. So we have a name, a query with data, true. Okay, and now we, oh, sorry, we don't have this do. Now we can say execute some SQL, and this SQL will be from this template, right? So we can just get it here, and then we can move it. And this is almost what we want, but this is not exactly with this thing, so we can just call it query. Is a string, we can call query, otherwise, or we can say respond to SQL. So if the query responds to SQL, we are going to call to SQL. Otherwise, I expect to have a query. Okay, so here I have data, and so I can just call here no. unless with data. So let's call no data. Oh, I can just keep one extra space, it will not matter too much. So with data, with no data, with this, and now we can replace the name here. So we have some create materialized view, continuous aggregates. Here we have a few other options that we are going to cover later, but for now we can try to see how it goes. I'm sorry. And let's move on. So the first thing that we build here is the create. And look in the CX. What else I have here? I have this continuous aggregates policy. This is like a next thing to be mapping. So let's just make it work first. Okay, so we don't have a time column. Yes, I forgot to mix the previous example, so this was like an incomplete one. So this is as time, and it says the column time does not exist. Okay, so the problem is that when I create this table, I create like an active record style that we use the created at column. So we don't have the time column. So let's see here, time, where we call time. Sorry, eggs. So we call time, basically, we call, sorry, here. You need to say created at. Okay. And then this is what we want, and in this case we have the aggregates now. So let's try to rerun the line 100 only. Okay. Oh, sorry, I have more than one place where I call time here, created at, and also here create at. So this last and first needs some reference from what's the first or last based on. So now what we have, relation has no order and the table has no primary key to be used as default order. What's going on? So the count had failed. So why the count failed? It says irreversible order error. Okay. But let's confirm that continuous aggregates so let's move these on here. Let's see if what I can get. So now, oops, drop ticks because other objects depend on it. Ha! Our thing is working. So drop table cascade true. Probably it's like this. Let's see. I never use the cascade. Okay, active record drop table cascade. Drop table name force cascade. So it's force. Okay, force cascade. Drop table ticks because other objects depend on this. Oh, sorry, I was just doing the wrong line. I need here like this from ticks perspective. Okay. Keep both cascades so we don't have any issues. Model.continuous aggregates dot last. All right, I cannot execute last. I can just say all. I can also call count, but I cannot say last because they don't have an order. So that was the issue. We don't have a like real case here, but let's go. So if we drop this, let's say now that we have this, so here where I say last, so let me just remove this, and now it will simply work as we expected. So let's see. Yay! We have a new thing working. So the continuous aggregates is being generated via migrations, and now we can even introduce the new methods that we can call, like this refresh, continuous aggregates, and everything. So for example, here we have policies. So let's just discover how we can just check it. So select from Timescale DB information schema. So we have this continuous aggregates. Okay. And what about refreshing policies? Oh, it's probably on jobs. And yeah, policy refresh continuous aggregates policy. So I can just add it, or it will be like materialize the hypertable and so on. And that's how it works. So the hypertable name use this structure, and it works like a hypertable. So we can also let's say fetch information from these jobs stats and check this. So we see here that, for example, this is a policy refresh continuous aggregates thing. So for example, if I join here bin console for my playground, and I get here like tick.jobs, I will not have anything. But if I go to tick.continuous aggregates, I see that I have one first dot jobs. Oh, I don't implement jobs there yet. So let's go to here, continuous aggregates. I can say here has many jobs, foreign key hypertable name. So let's see if it works as we expect. Yay! Oops. Oh. No primary key for jobs. Okay. No primary key for continuous aggregates. Okay. Okay, so looks like we cannot just say it, and looks like I'm still like so I'm referring to a continuous aggregates from a model, and when I say has many jobs, I'm calling like timescale jobs here. And I did some extra examples here, so let's get hypertable one. And as you can see here, I have the foreign key is hypertable name. It's very similar, but I have this extra class name, so maybe that's the issue. So I can say here jobs, and then I can call it like job here, and the foreign key is the hypertable name. Let's see. Okay, so it does not know the primary key of the other table, because like active record no primary key self.primary key equal hypertable name, or do we have like something else. So let me just see here. First, what's the attributes we have? We have a view name, so view name will be unique. Maybe we need to combine it with more data there, but let's see. Okay, so now we got the first dot jobs. Okay, so oh yes, it's just using the wrong thing because it needs to get the primary key to get it as. So the primary key here needs say hypertable name. Oh, sorry. Because we are calling jobs. Yeah, so we need to say hypertable name here. This will be the primary key for the other things. And then probably even this is not needed. And maybe this is even not needed. Let's test it without it as we build the first thing there. Okay, looks like we don't get the job, and we are just saying jobs continuous aggregates ID. So that's very weird. So let's confirm. It does not contain continuous aggregates ID, so it does not make too much sense. And then instead of doing this, we can just think about putting it back here, the foreign key. Let's test it again, because maybe that's the issue. Or maybe I am just not getting the right thing here. So we are getting jobs where hypertable name equals ticks, and in the end it's not exactly like this, because what we are saying is that we are getting all the jobs from this hypertable name, but if we get here, for example, jobs, all the jobs, we will see here policy refresh continuous aggregates, and this is a refresh continuous aggregates against some math hypertable ID, and this is just like what it calls here is like hypertable name, and the hypertable name of this job is the foreign key that we want to filter, but we want to filter this hypertable name materialized with our continuous aggregates. So if we call here first, where is the materialized? So it's materialization hypertable name. So this is against these that we want. So materialization hypertable name is our primary key. All right. No, this is our foreign key. So when I call, yeah, let's first try here. And let's see how it goes. So this is the small details for how we build the record stuff. So yay, it works. So if I try jobs here, oh. So we are calling jobs that has the materialization hypertable name. Oh no, it's the hypertable name in the other side. So we need to say here hypertable name, not materialization hypertable name. So yeah, this is what makes it as we expect. And that's the power of live coding. If you don't get it, you need to rework. And now we have the jobs.all. So we can get the jobs through the continuous aggregate, so which is quite cool. You can just see it, and now we see, for example, that we already have like a policy for this continuous aggregates, and maybe this is not the desired thing, because probably this is something old, and I don't want to do this now. No, it's not old, sorry, this is here. This is the aggregation policy that we have before. So I need to just remove this job, because this is old and we don't want to use it. So I can just use here something to remove. So let's exit. Let's go to playground again. Select, remove job 1005. It's delete job. Okay, so we delete the job, and if I try it again here in the bin console, so probably we will not have it more. Yes, okay, so this is fine. And now let's say like we were testing on that environment, but if we test it here, now we can also talk about it and say like we don't have the policy, and we can now say here expect model continuous first job count to be empty. So this is like an extra test. And then here we can also call context do. So when use how we call it? Sorry. When, so you can say policy of set start end and intervals. So we can just think that we can also use this extra option here. So let's say we are going to have something very similar to this, and this will be we'll have some extra options. So we call here create CX, and we call here with data, and we can transform these options into like a hash option, so you will be able to see more here. Okay, so let's get it. Let the options will be an hash map that will return with data true, and then what we have here is that when use refresh policies, so we can just like have it around, and we can say refresh policies, and let's use this model here. So we have start, end, offset, and schedule interval. So let's just move it here. And here we can also make it more Ruby style. So we can say it like this, and just to think that user will put a query there, and it will be enough. Okay, the schedule interval is the same, and then we can say here the schedule interval. So we are going to pass these options in this hash map. So if the person calls create continuous aggregates with intervals and everything, it will also be available here. So, and then we need to execute this code behind the scenes. So let's just move this here out. Okay, and now here we have options, and these are the options with data, refresh policies will be like empty hash map here. So and then we are going to just yes. So this is like a refresh policy. So let's confirm how we are building it. So we say here on the create continuous aggregates, this is our next execute, and this execute will happen over some name, and then we'll have start offset, end offset, schedule interval. So I have all these things interpolated here as well. So we will interpolate sorry, start offset is the first one. Let's create here end offset, and also the schedule interval. If policy equal so I can just assign it. I love these inline assignments. I'm sorry if that's not the best way to do, but I think it's very useful. So, and then like we can just include these refresh policies now, and just think that, and then we need to say options with data. So we can just call it options. So when you use a double splat, it says like this is a hash with several options, and then we can just make it like unless, and policy refresh policies here will become this, so we can just get the inner hash there, and execute it with the params. We can also say here to do assert valid keys if we want to guarantee that people, if they say refresh policies, they also need to say start, end, offset, and schedule interval. So this is the basics to make it. And yeah, so this is the beginning. So now when we call create continuous aggregates, if we put these extra options, we are getting there, and here we are just putting the options there, and yes, so we have it all there. And we say here with data, let's put false, even we don't have the data. But yeah, we don't need the data, but we also can add the refresh policies. And the main difference here is that it will not be empty as we implemented. So let's see if this test is broken, or otherwise this is wrong. It's not 100. We need to get, yay, 108 and 127. So we have two problems. The first is like expected 0 to be empty, 1 to be empty, and so I missed this. See, so this is to not, oh sorry, it's not to be empty. And here I can say to be empty. Let's see what we get from our tests. So they are working, and this is very, very cool, because we have everything now well tested, and we are also checking that the job is there, and we can even like assert details of the job or anything. But at least we have like a good coverage that we can see it now. And yeah, okay, so let's see what else we have here. So we created CX, and we add this create continuous aggregates that allow people to play with CX. So let's just as we build all these amazing things here, we can probably also document it to make it clear that everybody understands how to use and everything. So let's document it. Let's just create a small example here that we can show how people can work with continuous aggregates things. So let's see here, create table migrations. Okay, and so now I will say create continuous aggregates, and I will also put some subtitle here. Create continuous aggregates. So let's just remove the con here. SQL, no, it's Ruby. Too much SQL ultimately. Okay, this is the hypertable options, this is the model. So now I can just make it here. So remove all these con things, and yeah, I guess I missed the right hypertable options are from here, and the table options are from here. So These are the options. Equal. So if the options are equal this, and let's call it query, just a single variable, query equal this, and then the options here are like this. Let's say the model here is like this. Okay, so, and now we can call here tick. So the hypertable options need to move up, and let's call it hypertable options equal. Oh, I missed that I am not on Ruby, that I can just try to read in the code and it would work. So now I have these options, so okay, and this is the create hypertable, and these are the, let's say, tick class to create a query, and then I have here the final options to run the query. So that's very cool, and I hope I can manage to make everything here indented properly. Nice. So now I have these options, and oops, my keyboard. That's me, not my keyboard. Okay, so, and with these options I can use like create continuous aggregates. So in this case, like I am just putting everything here with 2 examples. It might work to just use the same events, but yeah, yeah, so yeah, if I would like to just make it easy, we could just use a SQL here and say select and put the from clause and everything, but we are saving some stuff here. So I like it. I like this idea. I also will put here some query. So I can call it like this, and I can just say it's finishing the query here. Okay, so this is like more easy to read. Also, yes. So okay, now we have the query, and we have the options and everything, and we also have tests, and we show how we can build it. I don't need to pass the toSQL here. I also can prove it because I say here in the spec, and I had some clause there that is just making it work and checking if it responds to SQL. I will try to call this method, otherwise I will execute it as it is. So when we call refresh policies, we get policies and everything. So we are ready. So let's see what we did, adding progressively. So, okay, I added the title, also add some documentation, also created some extra metadata for connecting jobs to continuous aggregates. We also have like a new scope that allow us to check out continuous aggregates. We also have the new helper method that do refresh policies and everything. And yeah, so this is the beginning. We can refactor it a bit later. We also add the force cascade, and yeah, so okay. Options. Okay, so that's very cool. And if we see it now in this in the main repo here, let me just move this. Oops, not here. Okay, now let's see if we have it. Create continuous aggregates, and we have these hypertable options, chunk interval, and then we have the tick being created and some carry example that people can run by themselves. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you like the idea here. So now we also have this option to cover. We have several faults here because create continuous aggregates contains contains a lot of things, and when we use continuous aggregates, we end up let's say learning a bit of this inner behavior related to background jobs and several things. And if we come to here, we are on the how-to guides, but if we just come to the API reference here, you can see, oops, continuous aggregates, and then you can see here add continuous aggregates, refresh, remove aggregates policies, and so on. So this is all like things that we can be adding now. So for example, refresh continuous aggregates is something that can be done in a migration, or we can also make it in a regular. So we also have remove continuous aggregates that will receive a name. So I think it deserves some special method, so we can also test this and see how it goes. So this is like a very simple method that we can create here. So we say here when use refresh policies, we get some refresh policies, and we could also we can also remove these continuous aggregates policies in some moment. So I could have like something here to remove and check if the jobs are available or not. And yeah, so that's the basics that we need to be doing these transitions. Also, something cool that I'm thinking about make is continuous aggregates here. So we could say, for example, def refresh, for example, and then we can say from to, and then it could I could say like refresh and refresh some specific time and some specific time frame, and just to do some execution here. So that's the one of the next things that we can also build and be working on. And if you have any comments and ideas, feel free to reach and also also try to use or contribute to this. So I hope you enjoyed this live session, and yeah, thank you for watching. Happy Friday.